Joining me right now is the Washington Examiner Editor-in-Chief Hugo Gurdon. Hugo, good to see you. Thanks very much for being here. Looks like the Republicans are finally united on this, and they're getting, it looks like a victory here. Is the president caving?
Yes, I think this is a really important moment for, we've had a number of debt ceiling crises in the past, and in every case, the public has thought that the Republicans are more to blame. It looks as though the Republicans have been, because they've been united, and because they've done something reasonable, which is to pass legislation which actually would raise the debt ceiling at the same time as cutting some spending. They are the ones who are clearly seen to have taken some action. It is the president who, as the Speaker said, for 97 days was sort of holding out and refusing to discuss the ceiling at the same time as spending. But last week he blinked, and it was interesting because he blinked by saying there are certain things like the student loan forgiveness and other things which he would take off the table, such as the Inflation Reduction Act, and that implied that there were certain things which were on the table which he was willing to negotiate about. And even though he says that the two things are unconnected and they're going along in parallel, it's perfectly clear that the Democrats and President Biden have blinked. They are discussing spending cuts, and they could have been doing this for the last 3 months and should have been doing this for the last 3 months. But there is a possibility, as the speaker said, that they could get a deal done by the end of the week. And obviously they should, because a default would be a calamity.
Of course. Here's Mike Baker.
Yeah, Hugo, look, my feeling has always been that in Washington, D.C., when you get the big names out of the room and you let the staffs do the talking, you actually get some accomplishments, right? You actually get moving. So with President Biden away now on a foreign trip, do you feel there's any legitimacy to that?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. It's probably a good thing that he's off to the Far East for several days, even though he's going to come back early, which isn't necessarily a good thing. But he's going to be away, and each side has appointed people to conduct their negotiations. And when you don't have the top politicians, the president and the speaker, being the ones who are kind of going out and are trying to negotiate, and they're not sort of thinking quite as hard about the political messaging, and you've got the functionaries and the lower level people. What they're going to do is try and come to a deal.
Yeah, and right now, look, the Republicans are focused on the things that matter to the American people. Kevin McCarthy's doing a good job. Now we're looking at oversight that is actually mattering with regard to the Biden family and its ties to communist China. We understand Chinese donors with ties to Hunter Biden's business deals and the Communist Party gave at least $105 million, 105, to the University of Pennsylvania between 2018 and 2022. That's the university housing President Biden's think tank, the Penn Biden Center. That amount is nearly double what was previously known, Hugo. And we know that it was Secretary of State Anthony Blinken who was running the Penn Biden Center. He got a big job. Now he's Secretary of State. Your thoughts on all of these connections to the Biden family?
Yeah, well, what's been revealed, and we wrote about this in the Washington Examiner, is yet another network of money flows linking the Chinese Communist Party and the Chinese government with the Biden family. It's easy to get to, it's easy to forget the wood for the trees. I mean, there are it's good that the details are being nailed down. And for example, the CEO of a Chinese merchant bank, which invested or gave $5.5 million to the University of Pennsylvania, was also sitting on a board that advised the Chinese government and the CCP, the Communist Party, and also happened to go to the White House, or actually maybe not to the White House, but met with President Biden when he was vice president. There was another company, Chinese investment company, which it was a shareholder in a mining company, and that mining company happened to get some good rights in the Congo with the help of a company set up by Hunter Biden. Those are the details, but the overarching thing that one needs to remember about these sort of networks is the whole idea is to obscure the connections. One can get lost in all the corporate names, but we know that the Biden family received $10 million or more, and it was distributed through shell companies to people, including, for example, Biden's grandchildren, who clearly were not doing any work for this.
Unbelievable.
This is the way influence peddling works.
Yeah, and we know that from Hillary Clinton as well, by the way. This feels like Russia hoax 2.0 in terms of the FBI ignoring all of this. The White House is still refusing to comment on the Durham report. And, of course, that confirmed everything that we reported on this program from the early days of this story back in 2018, that Trump-Russia collusion story was made up by Trump's opponents, the Hillary Clinton campaign, and Democrats. We are with your colleague today, Kayleigh McGee-White. Kayleigh, jump in here.
Yeah, Hugo, it seems that the media is also complicit in not just the Russiagate hoax, but also you wrote earlier this week about how the media is completely disinterested in covering the Hunter Biden laptop story and even the connections to Joe Biden. What is the media's role in this, and why is it so significant that so many outlets are suppressing the truth on these matters?
Well, Kayleigh, the truth is, and everybody has recognized this for a long time now, is that the bulk of the media, favor the Democrats. They don't want to report on. They've abandoned the role of reporting, without fear or favor. And when it comes to their own side, they want the Democrats to win. They don't want to make a lot of noise about anything where the Democrats are shown up. I mean, I think one of the things about the Durham report, which is absolutely the central irony here, which confirms what we knew before, but nevertheless confirms it in an official way, is that the very people who make the most noise about the possibility of Russian interference in the 2016 election and Russian disinformation are the ones who relied on Russian disinformation in the Steele report to hack the American political system and disrupt an entire presidency. That is something which even now, people on the left, the people who want the Democrats to win, are trying to cover up. They're continuing to say, even after the Durham report, nothing to see here, nothing to see here, let's move on, let's move on. There's lots to see here. It's now officially established, and it is a huge scandal.
It's a huge scandal, and it's incredibly disturbing, and a lot of people's reputations took a hit as a result of all of those lies. Hugo, thank you. Hugo Gurdon joining us this morning.